Hi readers, welcome back. And first I need to tell you that this is not an accidental book haul. Rather, this is mostly orders that I placed in December that didn't arrive till January. There's also my Book of the Month Club pick. I'm on the fence about Book of the Month Club. I'm really considering giving it up. It's been great, but I have not read a lot of the picks that I've chosen. So the one that I tell you about here will weigh heavily in my decision on whether to keep on with it or not. Also, there was one tiny little New Year's Day trip to Barnes & Noble. I ordered a couple of three books online for pickup in store, and then while I was at the store, 3 more books just jumped into my arms. I don't know how that happens. But anywho, here we go. So first is my Book of the Month Club pick. That was Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin. This was the only one that really called to me, and that's why I'm questioning it, because there weren't a lot of picks this month that spoke to me, and if I didn't have the credit, I would not have picked this book up. However, it does sound interesting. Enid is obsessed with space. She can tell you all about black holes and their ability to spaghettify you without batting an eye in fear. But her one major phobia is, get this, bald men. When Enid is not listening to her favorite true crime podcast on loop, she's going out with a rotation of women from dating apps. At the same time, she's trying to forge a new relationship with her estranged half-sisters after the death of her absent father. Enid unwittingly plunges into her first serious romantic entanglement and starts to believe that someone is following her. As her paranoia spirals out of control, she must contend with her mounting suspicion that something is seriously wrong with her, because at the end of the day, there's only one person she can't outrun, and that's the same person none of us can outrun ourselves. Next up is more nonfiction for my study this year, and that is on World War II. This is The Battle for Rome, the Germans, the Allies, the Partisan, and the Pope, September 1943 to June 1944, by Robert Katz. Interestingly enough, and I only did a real quick skim on this, Robert Katz was sued by, I think, the Vatican, because he says bad shit about the Pope in here, and Catholics were not happy. So not happy that a recent reviewer made sure everybody knew he had been sued in the review. But this book was mentioned in my World War II history class that I'm finishing up this month. It's a continuing ed class. So I figured it was worth the buy. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that this year I'm trying to expand my horizons, including more literary fiction, to include classics and Pulitzer Prize winners. This book is one that I am surprised that I don't have, but not really surprised I haven't read it, and that is Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove. It will probably be a while before I read this, but I am trying to get to it this year, but because it's got very small print and it's over 800 pages, so I will definitely wait until later in the year. I did watch a few minutes. There's a series either on Peacock or Paramount. I think it's also on Prime. But there was a TV series. I think my parents made us watch it. But I might take a look at that in the evenings before I read this novel. Okay, next up, the one I've been wanting to tell you about. This is one that I have been going back and forth on for months. I was like, I'm going to buy it, and I look at it in the store, I'm like, I'm not going to buy it. And then I saw a YouTube video where it was recommended as a classic read, and it goes into it's an autobiography, but it kind of goes into my area of study for the last year, which is both of the world wars, and this is about World War I. This is Goodbye to All That, I love that title, by Robert Graves. Robert Graves was a literary historian, a professor, I'm sorry, I read the wrong part. He was a poet, a critic, a novelist, translator, author. This is his only autobiography, and this is essentially, it traces the monumental loss of innocence that occurred as a result of World War One. And if you've read anything about World War One, you know that it was horrific. He wrote it after the war, and he thought he was leaving England forever. And because, so this traces his whole upbringing from a child through his entry into the war at age 21 as a patriotic captain in the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. Sorry if I mucked that up a bit. Anywho, a lot about trench warfare. Trench warfare was horrific. Now, Robert Graves. I have 2 items from him. One is a historical grammar of poetic myth, The White Goddess. This is really a reference book for me. It's not something I'm going to read front to back. I no longer do myth research in my downtime, but I always reserve the right to go back to that, and I have these books for reference if I want to have them. Also, last year I listened to the BBC Audible program / book, I, Claudius, which is a book Robert Graves wrote. I highly recommend that. That was fantastic, and it's kind of a flashback for me because when I was growing up, my parents used to watch I, Claudius, which is the series based on the book written by Robert Graves. And this is a fantastic series. I picked this copy up at the Bagram Bazaar a million years ago, and I believe it's available on Prime. Anywho, it's all about the Roman empires, and it is quite spicy. So, I am looking forward to giving this a go. This is going to go on my history bookshelf back here. And I'll let you know what I think about it when I get to it. Again with the classics, this is one I have not read and did not have a copy of, and that is Brave New World and Brave New World Revisited by Aldous Huxley. In this, and I'm sure you know about it better than I, this is Aldous Huxley's vision of the future, a world utterly transformed. Through the most efficient scientific and psychological engineering, people are genetically designed to be passive and therefore consistently useful to the ruling class. This sheds blazing critical light on the present and is considered to be Huxley's most enduring masterpiece. I am going to get to this one, hopefully in the first half of the year. Definitely this year, though. I need to put my definitely this year pile somewhere so I know what I definitely need to get to. Next up, I am 100% sure that I've read this book before, but again, I didn't have a copy, and you know me, I need to own all the books. And that is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I own several other Bradbury books. I do not know why I don't have this. If you don't know about it, Guy Montag is a fireman. His job is to destroy the most illegal of commodities, the printed book, along with the houses in which they are hidden. I hope they don't come to my house because none of mine are hidden. Montag never questions the destruction and ruin his actions produce, returning each day to his bland life and wife Mildred, who spends all day with her television family. But when he meets an eccentric young neighbor, Clarice, who introduces him to a past where people didn't live in fear, and to a present where one sees the world through the ideas in books instead of the mindless chatter of television, Montag begins to question everything he's ever known. There's been a wave of book bannings in the U.S., and so this seems really timely to me. They'll say they're not book banning, but they're taking books out of the hands of people. So that is something I'm completely against. That, again, try to get up in the first 6 months, which these two are the first 6 months. This is in the year. I've got quite the pile here, and I still have other stuff to get to. Okay, this is one of the books that jumped in my hand. And it jumped in my hand because I had picked another buy one, get one 50% off. And so I needed a second book. I almost didn't pick this up. In fact, if there hadn't been buy one, get one 50% off, I would not have bought it. And that is That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. Lally? Shivering and bruised, a teen wakes up on the side of a dirt road with no memory how she got there or who she is. The police don't know where she came from until a frantic man arrives at the station. He's been searching for her for hours. He has her school ID, her birth certificate, and even family photos. He is her father. Her name is Mary. Or so he says. Then it skips to, when Lola slammed the car door and stormed off into the night, Drew thought they just needed some time to cool off, except Lola disappeared. Now his friends, the sheriff, and the whole town are convinced Drew murdered his girlfriend. Forget proving his innocence. He needs to find her. The longer Lola is missing, the fewer leads there are to follow, and the more danger they're both in. Now, the reason I picked this up is because this used to be right up my alley. Again, I've expanded my reading, but I think that there's some question. Obviously, there's some question in here on who this girl is, and I'm excited to find out what it is. I'm not sure when, though. The other book that I picked up was a part of the buy one, get one 50% off, was a Reese's Book Club pick. I've been really happy with every Reese's Book Club pick that I've picked up. And that is Before We Were Innocent by Ella Berman. I love a good murder and death. 10 years ago, after a sun-soaked summer spent in Greece, best friends Bess and Joni were cleared of having any involvement in their friend Evangeline's death. But that didn't stop the media from ripping apart their teenage lives like vultures, etc., etc. But now, Joni needs a favor, and when she turns up at her old friend's doorstep asking for an alibi, Bess has no choice but to say yes. She still owes her. But as the two friends desperately try to shake off their past, they have to face reality. Can you ever be an innocent woman when everyone wants you to be guilty? I'm looking forward to that one. That will be a palate cleanser between literary fiction. Next one, again, this is one that jumped into my arms when I was at the Barnes & Noble picking up my pre-orders, one of which was Goodbye to All That. And that is Leaving Atlanta by Tayari Jones. This book won the Hurston Wright Legacy Award, and it is about that summer in Atlanta when all the young black children went missing. And I believe they were all murdered. It's been a while since I've looked into that. Yes, it's been a while since I looked into that case. But this was set in the 2-year nightmare in which Atlanta's black children were vanishing, and 29 would be found murdered by 1982. So it's the end of the summer in Atlanta, and 5th grade classmates Tasha Baxter, Rodney Green, and Octavia Harrison will discover back to school means facing everyday challenges in a new world of safety lessons, terrified parents, and constant fear. So this book is going to be told from that point of view of the children who experience living in that time, and that is one I definitely want to get to sooner rather than later. Next up is a pre-order. Again, this goes along with my nonfiction research, and this is about the First World War. It is called Female Intelligence by Tammy Proctor, Women in Espionage in the First World War. I got this because it was referenced. It was a in the bibliography of another book I was reading and am no longer reading. But this is also going to help me with my Women in War series, because the Women in War series is not limited to World War II. I am not sure why I picked this up, except I'm not sure on the details, except that I heard a YouTuber sing the praises of this book, and even though it is not World War I, World War II related, and it is fiction, this is a winner of the PEN/Faulkner Award, and it's intriguing. I love the title, War Trash by Ha Jin. So this casts a searchlight into a forgotten corner of modern history, the experience of Chinese soldiers held in U.S. POW camps during the Korean War. With Yuan, the main character, as a guide, we're ushered into the secret world behind barbed wire, a world in which kindness alternates with blinding cruelty, and one has infinitely more to fear from one's fellow prisoners than from the guards. So, I'm interested to read this. I did spend time in Korea when I was in the army, so it's been a long time since I've read about anything about Korea. I'm assuming that's where these individuals are held. And I know nothing about Chinese prisoners and very little about the Korean War. Anywho. Next up, this is a book I pre-ordered based on a video I saw by, I think his name is Greg, and he has a YouTube channel called Supposedly Fun. He recommended Like a Love Story by Abdi Nazemian. This was a Stonewall Honor book, and it's written by the same author who wrote Only This Beautiful Moment, which I read last year and loved. So I'm really looking forward to this. I like Abdi's writing style. This is set in 1989 in New York City, and three teens find that their world is changing. Mirza is an Iranian boy who's just moved to the city with his mother. He's terrified that people will find out he's gay, since all he knows of gay life are the media's images of men dying of AIDS. I kind of grew up in the 70s and 80s, so I really remember the AIDS crisis and how scary it was, so I'm interested to read this. Judy is an aspiring fashion designer who worships her Uncle Stephen, a gay man with AIDS, who devotes his time to activism as a member of ACT UP. Judy's never imagined finding romance until she falls for Mirza and they start dating. Poor Judy. Art is Judy's best friend, their school's only out and proud teen. He rebels against his conservative family by documenting the AIDS crisis through his photographs. As Mirza and Art grow closer, Mirza struggles to find a way out of his deception that won't break Judy's heart and destroy the most meaningful friendship he's ever known. This is going to go in the read in the next 6 months pile, read in the next year pile. Because I loved Only This Beautiful Moment. I like Abdi Nazemian's writing, and this sounds like a great story. The 80s are back on trend now, or were. So I always like kind of a flashback book. Next up is one that I've heard about for a while, and again, recommended by Supposedly Fun, and that is Shuggie Bain. I almost bought this on someone's recommendation off of the YouTube earlier. This won the 2020 Booker Prize. It is the unforgettable story of Hugh Shuggie Bain, a sweet and lonely boy who spends his 1980s childhood in rundown public housing in Glasgow, Scotland, taking care of his mother Agnes. His mother's in the thrall of alcohol and spends most of the family's weekly benefits money on extra strong lager and bottles of vodka. This is a heartbreaking story of addiction, sexuality, and love. Again, I'm not sure when I'm going to read this, but I waffled about picking it up throughout the past year. They call it a debut novel that reads like a masterpiece. It's going to get read. I'll let you know how I feel about it. Another recommendation from Supposedly Fun is A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza. This is a book about family. An Indian Muslim family as they prepare for their eldest daughter's wedding. But as Hadia's marriage, one chosen of love, not tradition, gathers the family together, there is only one thing on their minds: Amar, the estranged younger brother of the bride, who returns home for the first time in 3 years. This book takes us back to the beginning of the family's life, from the bonds that hold them together to the differences that pull them apart. Can Amar find his way back to the people who know and love him best? Looking forward to this. This was a New York Times bestseller. I don't know. It was copyright 2018, so it's several years old. However, I do look forward to reading it. Finally, I bypassed this as Book of the Month last month, December, I think, because I must have been smoking crack or something. Bad joke. But I definitely looking forward to this. This is kind of goes along with my nonfiction research that I've been doing, only in a different way. This is a Good Morning America book club selection. It is The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan. This is going up to read in the next 6 months to a year. This is a captivating, sweeping novel about a Malayan mother who becomes an unlikely spy for the invading Japanese forces during World War II, and the shocking consequences that rain down upon her community and family. Set in Malaya, 1945, Cicely Alcantara's family is in terrible danger. Her 15-year-old son has disappeared. Her younger daughter hides in a basement to avoid being pressed into service at the comfort stations. Her older daughter, who serves tea to drunk Japanese soldiers, becomes angrier by the day. Cicely knows two things: this is all her fault, and that her family must never learn the truth. A decade prior, desperate to be more than a housewife, she's lured into a life of espionage by the charismatic General Fujiwara. She's mesmerized by the dream of an Asia for Asians and helps usher in a war, and with it, a new and more brutal occupier. Now her family's on the brink of destruction, and she will do anything to save them. This is told, it appears, from different perspectives. Cicely, Abel, Jujube, her older daughter. So I love a book that's told from different perspectives, and this is definitely going up into the read within the next year. And that's it. My box is empty. I've been using this box just to hold all the pre-orders in as they came in. I will probably have one more book haul. I only have 2 books that I know are coming in, maybe 3. And I'll do that probably closer to the end of January. Hopefully I can maintain control of myself and not go back to the bookstore. Or maybe I'll do some book hauls from around here as a way to spice my own interest in my own collection. Spice it up a little bit. I'd love some suggestions on what you'd like to see as far as content goes. I plan to do book reviews. I've got a blind date with a book. I've got the Women in War coming up at the end of the month. And that's it. That's all for me today. Happy reading. I've got a heck of a lot of reading to do.